Oh, this is it. Hi, everyone.
Apocalypse Alchemy.
My name is Pat. I'm a qualified psychotherapist and linguist. I love languages. That's my kind of area of expertise and shadow work as well. And I'm joined, as I will be most weeks, with by the wonderful Ian. Do you want to introduce yourself, Ian, my friend?
Hello, yes, thank you, Patrick. So I'm Ian. I'm a Reiki therapist, Reiki master teacher, meditation teacher and coach. I also do hypnosis and various forms of massage. So very much in the spiritual, energetic realms from my side of the world. And obviously, we're both on a journey of not just helping to heal others, but also helping to heal ourselves, navigate ourselves through life. We have some weird synchronicities at times, don't we?
Deep, meaningful conversations about what we're currently going through, shadow work, healing, the collective, what's going on at the moment with this great awakening that
Mm.
is currently occurring on our uh, planet. We won't talk about the shape of the Earth in this episode, but we will in another one, I'm sure. Like deep, interesting topics. Yeah, this podcast really is just a natural progression of what we've already been doing, and our intention with it is to obviously have fun, number one, because it's so cool talking about deep shit. It's
Mm.
like what we both live for, We're
Mm.
not into the surface level conversations. Let's do this. Thank you for tuning in, guys. It's been an absolute pleasure. I've been Patrick. Ian has been Ian. We have been one. We've been the podcast. All right. Take care, guys. Speak to you in another moment of the ever present.
Yeah, so welcome all, and a happy new year to the viewers of the channel. Welcome back, Patrick and myself, and we're going to talk about the new year. What it
We're
means
back.
to us, what it means to you, and how it can affect us all. Um, so what does it mean to you, Patrick? Like New Year, when you come into like the new year, so to speak. Um, what does it mean for you
Well,
personally?
I've not celebrated. Actually, this year was the first time I went out for New Year's. We went to a concert and kind of celebrated and whatnot. But I've been pretty detached from like New Year's celebrations or whatever for a long time. I've always felt there's something a bit weird about it because it just felt like another day to me, which in essence it is, right?
Mm,
And then it's learning, as we talked off camera a bit about the like when you should start New Year. When I
mm,
learned about that, and I was like, oh yeah, this doesn't resonate with me starting a new
mm,
year like out of alignment with nature.
mm.
You know,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think you just should start it at the start of spring.
Mm,
And yeah, we've mentioned talked about that and we about how yeah, the reasons they do that, like to get us kind of out of alignment of with nature and whatnot. So
mm.
for me, man, I don't know, like kind of means nothing. I'll be
Yeah.
honest. Like I'm quite detached from. I don't tend to set goals anymore. But that's just because I've been through a massive spiritual kind of journeys, for the past 5 years. So I've completely changed. I'm
Mm,
trying to think like what I used to do before, like
yeah.
compared to now, is very different. Like, do you kind of resonate with that? Have you since getting into more like
Well,
spiritual ways of being? Do you think?
I kind of like I have and I haven't. So like obviously when I was younger, we used to always like celebrate New Year, and then when I had the house, I started doing having like it's actually one of my memories came up on Facebook, and I used to have like fancy dress parties and things like that at the house, which were always like really really fun, and we were always like really drunk, and there was lots of food, and it was like good times and things like that. And but it always just felt like you said, just like another day. It didn't feel any different really. And I always like in the back of my mind, there was always this kind of like question, as if to say, well, what's the big deal like about it? It's just like it's just moving into another cycle, um, I suppose. Um, and then as you start like unfolding and learning about different things, you start like you mentioned before, you start learning about the real New Year, because there's various New Years throughout the year, isn't there? There's the Chinese New Year, which is in the middle of February, and then then we talk about the 1st of April being the actual New Year, because it's like where nature is reborn and the sun's coming out. It's spring. It's the birth of everything. And that's where a lot of religious stuff comes from, like Easter. It's the birth. That's why you have the eggs, chickens, all that sort of stuff. So for me, I mean, Christmas in the back end of the year, I mean, for me personally, it's kind of like, it just feels like it can feel quite heavy and quite slow. But I think that's just because it is so dark, like in the UK anyway, I think. And for a lot of people, it's a big time of reflection, because you're looking back over the year, like, what have I achieved? What haven't I achieved? Some people might kick themselves because they haven't done what they wanted to do. They haven't achieved certain things. Other people might be like celebrating what they have achieved. But then many people will start the new year with the new year, all that sort of stuff for about 3 weeks. Then it all goes in the bin. And it just seems a bit like kind of fruitless, really, because you go into it for a few weeks, then you just go straight off the rails, off the wagon with it. So I suppose like today might be good for how we can kind of like keep ourselves motivated and use goals and setting if you're into that sort of thing. But for me, really, I just think it just brings more pressure, like brings more stress upon yourself, because you're putting things down that maybe you wanted to achieve last year and you never got to achieve. So you want to try and achieve them this year. Well, if you didn't achieve them last year, why are you going to achieve them this year? It throws up a lot of kind of like questions and brings a lot of negativity in.
Yeah, yeah. And ultimately, for me, it kind of brings a question to mind, like, well, what's the point of goal setting anyway? But we'll save that little piece of, like, yeah, nihilism, isn't it? Is
Yeah.
the word for it. When you're like, well, what's the point in anything? That's kind of a shadow I've kind of lived with, like the whole of my life, you know.
Mm,
Um, but yeah, I used to set goals, man. Like, I think I went through like a personal development stage. You do, don't you? Like this,
mm.
the so-called spiritual path. Like as you're
Yeah, yeah.
kind of growing, you're like, okay, well, I don't want to be a victim anymore. I want to be empowered, and I'm going to like develop myself, develop my character, and become better because that will make me happier. That's always the end goal, whether
Mm,
one realizes it or not. We just want to be happier
yeah.
and at peace. So you start with by like developing the character, don't you? How I'm gonna, and none of these things are bad either. They're not things that necessarily stop after you realize the futility
Mm,
of them.
mm,
They can be great tools and serve you to move around and stuff in the world. But um, yeah, I went through when I was maybe 24. I think I stayed on that path. I remember like learning about the law of attraction and things like that, writing down goals and being like, I'm visualizing this. I'm going to speak by the age of 30, if I'm 30 now, I'm going to speak, I think it was 4 languages fluently and stuff like this. I'd write down
mm,
and do a job I love doing. And I've achieved that
mm,
and more, do you know? So it does work, like
mm,
goal setting and whatnot. But I did it from a place of like, I need to find happiness in
mm,
these things. Like I was never going to be content doing a job, working in a bank or doing something that just doesn't feed my soul. But I didn't know
mm.
what to do, do you
Yeah,
know? So
yeah.
in that way, I was big on yeah, like goal setting and whatnot, achieving them. But you're right, like if you don't achieve them, that's like the other side of it, you know, kind of
Mm,
you put all this your hopes, you put your happiness into an external path, don't you? And
mm.
then if you don't achieve that
Yeah.
goal that you've set, you yeah can like I don't know beat yourself up or how have you kind of experienced that? Have you had that
Well,
experience of
it
setting a
takes
goal, not achieving it, and feeling shit?
it kind of takes you into the realms of kind of like mass consumerism, doesn't it? Because then again, everything is on the external, and you can only find happiness if you have this, or if you get that, or if I buy that car or have that much money. That's the only time I'm gonna actually be happy. But it's, I suppose it's finding that happiness and contentment within is the ultimate game. So I mean, on some level, it is good to have that sort of structure, maybe a regime or goal setting, and just mapping things out that you'd like to realistically achieve. And I think that's the point, is to just be realistic with it and um give yourself a good set time limit, and not like sort of just expect things to happen in like a week or whatever, just be realistic with it. But also, like, don't create the pressure and make yourself feel a failure at the end of it if you don't achieve it. And I think that's the key, that's the key to finding contentment within the self is, okay, I haven't achieved it. You might have got so far, so somewhere near. Um, I mean, like for a few, I mean, I used to smoke years ago, and for quite a few years, it was a case of like, right, New Year, I'm going to stop smoking. Like, might get like a week, 2 weeks, just yeah, back on them straight away. Couldn't do it, couldn't do it. But it's all up here. Everything is up here. Whatever you want to achieve and whatever you want to do, and it got to a point where I was just like, I can't actually afford to do this anymore because they were just getting more and more expensive. And I was just like, well, what is it actually giving me and doing for me? What am I actually getting out of it apart from, it's just like a habit, a habitual thing that I've created. So eventually it was like up there, like I was the willpower and the just the sheer um gumption that, right, this is it. I'm going to stop it. I've had enough. Um, and that was enough for that. So, I suppose having that interior feeling within, that sense of peace and happiness, and knowing that you're going to achieve it, and yeah, you can achieve it, then it will happen.
Yeah, yeah. You have to want it,
Mm.
especially I think if you, I don't know. I mean, I have been addicted to things. I've not really been addicted to like substances or whatever. I'd say I'm like most people addicted to sugar, certain foods,
Mm.
um, crisps. I say addicted, I don't have like I can feel a craving for them if I've not had them for a while, and if I
Mm.
have the thought of, oh, I'd love a bag of crisps, I like, yeah, I want a bag of crisps, like I want that. But I think, well, yeah, with your cigarettes thing, you had to wait until you've got like the will outweighs the the desire for them. The
Mm.
will to
Yeah.
change outweighs the desire for the substance or whatever. I actually watched there's an Eckhart Tolle video, I think it was, talking about substances and obviously talking about presence and whatnot. And something I've worked with people who are like heroin users, crack and whatnot. And if you're addicted to a substance like that, well, whatever substance you're addicted to, even if it's like vaping, that's a big thing now, and that people are just reaching for a vape. Um, a good way to kind of slow down, to begin to like wean yourself off of it, is to just be present when you're doing it. You
Mm.
know, um, be very very present. So you're reaching for the vape, just be like, okay, you don't have to stop your mind body from doing it, but just know you are not the one that's addicted.
Mm.
You are not addicted to that substance. It's your mind body is addicted
Mm.
to it. And as you're doing it, as the mind body doing it, just have like a detachment from the idea that it's you doing it, but be very present in the body. Like feel the tingling sensations in your fingers. Get present, feel that inner body that Eckhart Tolle talked about,
Mm.
and then let your mind body do it. And you'll just be more aware of it when you're doing it. You're like, okay,
Yeah. Yeah.
oh, this is hurting me,
Yeah.
and you'll start to your brain will make the connection of, oh, actually, this is not good for me. I don't want to do this,
Mm.
you know. And
Mm.
eventually, you'll yeah, not want to do it anymore, and you'll stop. But
Mm.
again, it comes from that like even wanting to do it. You've got to have a good reason to do it,
Yeah.
else you're not going
Yeah.
to do it.
I know my hypnosis teacher, he talked about he doesn't really do it that much with his clients, but he does touch on addictions and what have you in his courses. And he said that the few people that he has worked with regards to addictions and things like that is you have to make them see, you have to make them kind of like visualize the most kind of like disgusting things that it's creating in the person, to actually make them violently ill just at the thought of doing it, and that kind of like puts them off. And that's why he doesn't really like doing it, using that so much, because it's not really that nice. But on the other side of the coin, certain aspects of healing and therapy aren't very nice, but it's things that we have to go through and endure on some level, isn't it? But yeah, so, but I mean, there's a multitude of ways for that, for addictions and what have you. But the actual goal setting thing, I think everyone's in the same boat at this time of year. Like when the new year comes around, and I've had like an idea of what I'd like to achieve this year with regards to the business, and personally, and but yeah, but I haven't kind of like put too much thought into it. It's just something that, yeah, I'll put it out there, I'll visualize it, I'll see it occurring, and then see what happens.
Mm. Yeah, yeah. There's definitely an element of letting go in there
Mm,
as well when you set a goal, and they talk about this and all like the law of attraction things, and in the Bible as well.
mm,
There's an element of like have a like mental picture of it, of what you want to achieve, and
yeah.
then thank thank the Lord that it's already happened.
Mm,
Because once he receives it, like it is done, and just
yeah.
spend your time thanking and blessing the Lord. You know, that's more or less what it says in the Bible. It's what it says in law of attraction, New Age kind of teachings as well.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
yeah, like I was saying before, I kind of started to realize these goals that I was setting and achieving, like didn't didn't make me happy. Like they made me happy for a bit. I think that's the point, isn't it? You kind of oh, I wanna create this or manifest this. You do it because you want to be happy, And I think that's
Mm,
why it's the inevitable path to spirituality, and because eventually that energy kind of runs itself out. Some
mm,
people, myself, ran itself out very, very quickly.
yeah, yeah.
Others who kind of go on and achieve and get bigger and famous, and they have to have it all, quote
Mm,
unquote. Like the money, the fame, everything that their ego could possibly dream of, and
mm,
then still not be happy.
yeah,
For them to be like,
yeah.
wow.
How much further
And
do you have to go?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So some of us are very blessed in that we've realized that quite soon. Um, but I mean, it's anything's fine, and it's
Mm,
different paths, different ways of walking the same path. Like
yeah,
the
yeah.
point is, yeah, you might be listening to this now, and you kind of got to the point of you've achieved things in life, and you're still not happy uh, with
Mm,
them, and that's because you're on the next step of the ladder, really.
yeah.
Getting into proper spirituality. I think that's where it crosses over, doesn't it? Like personal development, try and develop this character. I want to get better. I want to get better. And eventually you can't get it. You get depressed or whatever. And then you have to really sit in all that emotional pain that you've been trying to
mm,
avoid.
mm,
And then you start to have spiritual uh, realizations, don't you?
yeah, yeah,
Oh, I'm not actually like that. You know?
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Oh, you start to ask, oh, who am I? Still unhappy, you know.
yeah,
And in a way, it can be worse, because
yeah,
you're sitting and facing all that pain there.
yeah. And yet you're
Um,
more consciously aware of it, aren't you? You're totally aware of what is going on, who this person is, the role that you're playing, and actually, it's all just an illusion and a part that you're playing out. And round and round it goes, and you just become more and more enveloped within yourself, and let go of a lot of the external stuff. And the more of that letting go that you go through, you become more internally aware. So you just become more exposed and aware to more things that just keep arising up, emotions and
Yeah,
feelings, and yeah,
your
it's just
shadow.
yeah, it's just constant.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Your own personal kind of shadow, or the shadow of the collective ego.
Mm.
Become aware of that happenings, and you're like, oh, look. Then that's a proper start in it to, yeah, introduction to spirituality and living life on a different plane, essentially. It's a different dimension of
Yeah,
being,
yeah.
isn't it? You've been so invested in this 3D character that you, oh yeah, yeah, my name is Pat, and I am this and I want this. You're identified with those like I am labels and want to improve these and get more and more and more and more.
Mm.
And you realize, shit, I still don't feel contented and happy. And eventually you come to realize, oh, it's because it's an illusion. Like it can't be happy. Like it's a,
Mm.
perhaps, what's a good analogy for that, mate? Would you say it's like try and fill up a, like it's an ever hungry like goblin, isn't it? That's like,
Yeah, well, it's trying to fill. It's like trying to fill a bucket with a hole in the bottom, but you're not aware of the hole.
yeah,
It just keeps falling out, um, and you don't you
yeah, yeah.
and you don't know where it's going to. It just keeps emptying out and emptying out, and the more you try and fill it, the faster it's just emptying out. Um, yeah.
That's a good one. And then
Mm.
you realize, oh, I have to be empty. This bucket, it fills itself up, but it's not filling itself up with this like water, this liquid I'm trying to put in. It fills itself up with spirit. You
Mm.
realize, oh, I am the bucket, and I'm not
Yeah.
the bucket,
Yeah,
and we're all buckets.
you're actually the space within the bucket and the space around the bucket. So you are, in fact, everything, every part of that bucket you are, not just the physical manifestation of it, but also everything within and around it. Yeah, so it's pretty big when you start like looking at it on that level, looking at life on that level, and especially with, when you come to the end of a year and you think, well, actually, it's not really, it's just a continuation of where I was and where this character is going, where you're taking it to.
Yeah. Mhm. Yeah, man. And it's kind of like I had this image come to me. I've realized like we kind of got this linear life, if you imagine, it's like linear kind of progression. So this is like
Mm,
the character, right? Getting things, and this is time as well that just goes on. Getting things, I want to achieve things, and you're kind of moving like this, you know. And you've
mm,
also got this dimension, which a lot of people aren't aware of.
mm.
I don't know how which way my if I start on this, maybe my camera's reversed now. You start like this, you're born. This is like the spiritual dimension, the soul. You're
Mm,
moving along this line, this linear time, right? And then you've got the soul's evolution, which is like that. And most people just keep going along this line, and the uh, awareness of the spiritual dimension is just like, non-existent,
mm.
just not there. And then eventually, towards the end of their life, it starts to go up. You see this
Yeah,
in a lot of old people. I realize as they get closer to death, they kind of start to ask the big questions, and they're like, "Well, what was that all for?" Like, do you know what I mean? I've just spent 80 years of my life, like,
yeah,
done
yeah,
this, done that. What? And then they start to ask themselves, who am I? Do you know? Like,
yeah.
what is this? They start to ask themselves the deeper question. Some
Mm,
do, not everyone.
yeah,
I don't know if have you seen that in old people? Do you know that like a little
yeah. What was it? What was
being
it?
kind of
What?
comes back to
Yeah,
their
yeah.
lives, like their eyes kind of like get a bit twinkly, you know?
Well, they become more present. They become more connected to their actual essence, the soul. They really do. And yeah, really start questioning everything, and questioning the physical mortality, what's going to go on after. Some people, when they get old, have their guides or people in spirit will come to greet them, to take them on, to move them through into the next veil as well. So you've got that aspect of things because they're so closely connected by that point to being just a spiritual being, rather, because the physical being is just wasting away slowly as they get older and older. So that aspect of the spirit becomes more potent within, and they just become lighter, not just physically, but
Mm.
dimensionally lighter. because all that stuff's just been let go of. That there's no need for the weight of whatever carried them through life of what they thought they had to carry, the stress and the burden and the responsibilities. It's all that's gone, and they only have one thing to worry about that now, and that is just their spirit, their essence, and they're moving forward.
Mm-mm. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Does make you wonder, you know. I've kind of switched it up a bit. I've kind of not that I don't have goals on this kind of plane and ideas of like what I want like to manifest because these things. Another thing I've realized is my kind of desires, they don't come from anyone in particular. Do you
Mm.
know, like my want to like learn languages and whatnot. I can do psychoanalysis on myself and finger point to this event or that event or whatever. But essentially, like that joy that it gives me, probably similar for you, like when you're like doing art or painting or whatever, that kind of like or working with someone doing Reiki or hypnosis, you know, that like, yes, that war. Like
Mm.
I didn't choose that, you know, feels like that
Mm.
is just chosen me and it's just wants to manifest, you know. So these things like the desire is still there.
Mm.
Uh but there's less I guess there's less of like a there's less of an attachment to
Yeah,
them.
there's
You
less
know, I'm kind of
restriction.
like, yeah, yeah,
Mm.
like this conversation. Why is it happening?
Mm.
Just joy in it. It's just nice.
Yeah, yeah. It's just
Just
nice. Just
fun. Just
it's
good.
just it's nice to just channel. It's just channel information and just let it flow through. And it's the same with whatever brings you that sense of peace and joy within. So for you, it's languages. For me, it's the music or the art or the healing or whatever the modality that we're working down. Um, it's just nice to let it flow, and it just feels natural. And it's really stepping into that feeling of nature from within and allowing it to flow, rather than
Mm,
being restricted by, oh, I need to be here for then, I need to do that then, and all the little blocks that we faced in life that create stress or create another level of dimension that we need to be, I don't know, aligned with or blocked by, or there's that many different things that do get thrown at us, by society, by culture, by social media, by job, by the labeling of the self. It's all just weight that we throw on ourselves to create more, I suppose, identity on some level. But in actual fact, you're none of that anyway. You're just playing the character. You're playing the role.
mm. Yeah, exactly.
Mm.
Exactly.
And that brings you to like the point of like, well, like the nihilistic part of it is like, well, what is the point of it all then? But
Yeah.
there's obviously a point in everything, because people at some point have to find who they are. They have to find their spirit. They have to find their truth. And
That's it. That's what
when they
sorry,
find that, then that's what and who they truly are meant to be in this role, in this life. And until you actually find that, of what that essence is wanting you to be and call you to, then you won't actually discover that internally fully. You'll always be struggling with the identity and the label, and the third dimension, consciousness.
yeah. We're essentially archetypes, aren't we? Just
Mm.
playing out. And
Mm.
it's all scripted, like we talked about astrology a bit, didn't we?
Mm.
Either today or another time, I can't remember. It's literally written in the stars, you know. It's all
Yeah, yeah,
scripted out.
yeah, yeah.
I looked at my I went on a website called It's All in the Cards, like the Cards of Destiny. I don't know
Mm.
if you've heard of that
Yeah,
website.
yeah.
And I looked at it because it came recommended from a bloke on YouTube who I like respect and like and resonate with. Um, my card was like the Seven of Hearts to do with truth and love, and that's literally the only things I care about, you know,
Mm.
from day dot, which is where the shadow of nihilism came from for me, you know, because that was my first question, like, who am I? Who are we? What is this? Where do we come from?
Mm.
You know, and then obviously with that comes the big shadow of what the fuck's the point? You know, this is
Yeah,
absolutely
yeah,
pointless.
yeah, yeah.
No one knows what they're doing. I ask people deep questions. They're like, you know, give a program kind of
mm.
NPC response. Oh, we go to work, we go to go to school, go to work, and I'm like, why? No one's happy. What's the point? What are you
Yeah, yeah,
doing?
yeah, yeah,
Let's
yeah.
just all chill out and think about what we're doing. You know. So yeah, it's all preordained in that way. It's all scripted
Mm,
in that way, and yeah. Yeah, nihilism, man. See, I don't know nihilism. I feel it's just a shadow kind of I've kind of got as my archetype of healer or just a serial kind of beer. Like I don't really see any other point, any other goal I kind of have in this life other than just to truly be who I am.
mm, mm,
Authentically just be on a deep level, just let that integrate. Let the old like egoic the mind body's kind of patterns and stories kind of dip and drift go away and then just authentically be like knowingly be.
mm.
That's kind of my only goal, essentially. And I wonder if it's just me and that's the archetype I have because I'm a healer or whatever. Oh, that's what I was going to say. My the cards against humanity, no, not that. The cards of destiny. That was a Freudian slip, wasn't it? The cards of destiny. Yeah, mine said on mine, Seven of Hearts, love and truth. And it said people with these cards often become teachers, counselors, or healers. And I'm literally all three. When I
Mm.
read that, I was like, my God, this is absolutely scripted,
Yeah,
This
yeah.
is crazy.
Mm. That's what
So I wonder, like, if you have that like nihilistic kind of thoughts, or is that my kind of personal shadow? I do wonder if it's all kind of
mm.
egos experience. Like, what's the point in this? Or have you not really had that as a big
I've ne
shadow?
I've never really I've had it when I've been in states of like sort of depression or mental health, but that's just been kind of like the egoic mind attacking the self. Um, but I've never really had that whole, well, what is the point in it all anyway? I've never really had that. I've always had a level of just almost like joyousness and just playfulness that comes out of the moment internally. And when these little things happen, they're just little synchronicities, and you just like, you just get that little bit of like light that just pops through. You're like, okay, you're still there. Yeah, I get you. Yeah, I get you. And it
You
just
got better karma than me, bro.
it just makes me like zing, and I get the tingles, or I just laugh, and yeah,
Yeah.
it just feels nice. So yeah, I've never really had that on that level as such. Like I say, just when I've been in those dark places before, I went through all this kind of like awakening spiritual stuff. Yeah, back then it was just very much just the ego driven, pointing the fingers at everybody else and myself, and yeah. So
Mm. Yeah. Because they often say, don't they, like your deepest trauma or your deepest shadow, that's the place you kind of give from. That's where your gift is. Because essentially you've got to face it to find your true essence,
mm,
to know
mm,
yourself or know that thyself, and then you can be let's say like a pure channel,
mm,
for that frequency.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
What's your like for me that's mind, and I know it has been because that's the biggie for me, that nihilism. But you're like the deepest kind of shadow, the place you serve from, where you kind of just is it starting to uncover, or
Uh,
it's a big
I,
question, so I don't mean to jump on you.
I don't know
I'm just
really.
curious.
There's been lots of different levels that I've worked through. Um,
Mm,
I don't know really. I don't know if I could like actually pinpoint one thing. Um, yeah, I don't know currently. Um, Obviously you've marked yours as that. Um, yeah, I don't know. I've never I've never really sort of like
mm,
connected to like one thing as such that's been like the big. there's been like a few things. So I mean, for me, kind of like anger was a big thing back in my earlier years. So there's a lot of that, and a lot of
Mm.
like self-hate, self-anger as well. A lot of talking badly of myself and not really having any appreciation for myself. So there's a lot of that sort of stuff that I had to work through.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and yeah, a lot of kind of like denial as well of the self, of who I am and what I am, and being able to see like who I really am now, you know, and being more at ease with myself and more comfortable with myself,
Mm.
you know, than I ever have been. Because I've always been kind of, I suppose, body conscious and like the physical like aspect of me I've always been very conscious of as well. So that's always been like, so the actual avatar of me has always been an aspect of that.
Mm. Self-acceptance, then, isn't it?
Self-acceptance and on that
Yeah.
emotional level as well, having that emotional acceptance to myself. And then when you go
Yeah.
through the various stages, you can actually see where it comes from on an ancestral line as well, on an ancestral pattern from behaviors and from traits from other family members and from people around you. You actually become more aware of that as your third eye opens and you become kind of more spiritually aware of everything and all that is around. Yeah.
Mm-mm. Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it?
Mm.
It's a good question for people to ask themselves, what is my kind of original, I guess, yeah, original wound is the thing I've heard. The original wound. If you
Mm.
say that to yourself, ask yourself, what's my original wound? You'll get like a feeling or could be a memory or
Mm.
something. So I said it myself. I
Mm.
was like, what's my original wound in it? And I just, yeah, went back to maybe being 10, 11, or even younger, to be honest. Like, but definitely around 10, 11, 12, like those kind of ages, sitting in my room after playing football on a Sunday. And then Mondays the next day, I hated Sundays. I was, as soon as football finished, I was like, wow, fuck this, life is shit. I was really like, you know, irked by it. I didn't understand it. And like, that's when I would just sit in my room and just be like, I'm not supposed to be here. Like, this is
Mm.
wrong. Like, I don't want to be here. So like a deep, deep sadness that I had to kind of get in touch with and integrate as an adult, And that's only a recent kind of pattern I've become aware of and began to integrate, you know.
Mm.
So it's a good question for people, I think. And
Yeah,
what's
yeah.
my original wound? Because then that's the place you serve from,
Mm.
And ultimately, I'm going to be a spiritual teacher, healer, just absolute being
Mm.
and serve from that. I'm teaching languages at the moment, but I know kind of the trajectory that I'm gonna go on. That's just what I'm here to do, you
Yeah,
know.
yeah, yeah. That because that can go on forever as well, can't it? When you look at that original wound, then you can kind of like, when you start working on that, you actually like something else opens up internally you and you think, well, like, so where's that come from? So has that, and then you start going down generational things. Is it a generational thing that's come into your energy field? And that's what you've adapted from somewhere else or from something else, or maybe through birth or through a past life trauma. Where's it all actually originated from? So what's the thing that goes beyond that? So when you talk in terms of energy and spirituality, it can go like on and on and on. I mean, when I've done emotional code therapy with somebody, she went back kind of like 20 generations or 20 ancestral lines and went back to like, and I think one of the traumas that was horror, just the horror of of that place, that she had to like work on and release. But when you go back like 20 generations, you're probably going back like, well, you're going back centuries, aren't you? You're going back a long, 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 long time. Um, so yeah, this stuff can pile up and pile up and pile up. Um, and I suppose that was where you get to a point where something has to give, and then you think, right, it's this life that I need to do this stuff. It's this life that I need to work on this. It's this life that I need to become more um in line, I suppose, with myself and do the healing,
Mm,
do the work.
mm. Yeah. And when people do that in their own times, like we said,
Mm.
it's kind of like just that energy. It's like a clapping, those wind up monkeys. So just kind of you wind them up and they go like
Yeah.
eventually they start to go slow down.
Yeah, yeah,
Some people have
yeah.
just got a lot of built up. There must be a word from it in Hindu Buddhism, like energy,
Mm.
like that just makes it go like this. And
Yeah,
then
yeah.
eventually it slows down. Like, yeah, yeah, oh no, I want to go and get this, get that, get that, and eventually you end up just suffering essentially.
Mm.
Um, suffering so much that you just right, there must be another way. You get to that
Yeah.
point of desperation, don't you? Just
It's
like,
like,
right, something's got to change massively. I'm either gonna you got to tap out.
mm,
I call it tapping out. When I
yeah.
had that moment, I was like stressed and so I did the personal development thing, trying to improve my character. Like a lot of like anxiety is coming up, and I wasn't good enough. I was hating on myself and whatnot. And I was just like, I'm done. I'm tapping out. And that's
Yeah.
exactly when the spiritual path for me kind of
Yeah. It's you
tired.
usually
It's where the
find,
dimension went
yeah,
higher.
for most people that's when it usually happens, isn't it? It's usually when they hit that wall of just like, I don't know which way to go now. I got to try something
Yeah.
else. And then it's just like, right, okay, I've heard all about this. Let's see what this is all about. And there's something magnetic about it that just kind of like pulls you in, and the soul then wants to know more, and it pulls more, and you pull more and more information into yourself, and then you find out ways of using it for you. And you take what resonates and leave what doesn't, and you just grow,
Mm,
you flourish, you bloom, you find out the things that are really putting you on that right path. And then that brings you back all the way back to this kind of I suppose this goal setting thing where it brings you all the way back to this path, and then you're like, oh, actually, I'm just totally open every day to whatever comes my way. I'm open to what the universe wants to bless me with. Um, and
mm,
everything is a blessing. In whatever form it comes, everything is a blessing because it's gonna give you something to either strengthen the chinks in your armor or make you aware of things that you need to work on.
yeah. And that's what you said there about take what resonates, and leave what doesn't. That's
Mm,
very important,
mm,
because essentially we're all just there. We're all just speaking and just projecting and
mm,
talking, and we do all every energy, every level of consciousness, wherever you're at, is an expression of truth, and it's all legit,
mm,
But for your kind of your ball of energy or your soul or whatever you want to look at it, you're resonating at certain frequencies, So just take what resonates with you. You're like, no, no, that's true. You know,
mm,
you'll
mm.
know eventually that will change. Your truth will change. Like,
Oh
so
yeah, yeah,
imagine Ian
yeah,
talking
yeah.
about like past lives and stuff and whatnot. You might be listening to that and being like, past lives doesn't make any sense. Like, doesn't if it doesn't resonate with you, just don't worry about it. Do
Mm,
you know? Equally, if you're like, oh my God, the past lives, yeah, yeah, that's something about that just feels right. It feels true.
mm,
You know, you go down that path.
mm.
Go
Yeah,
down that path, and that's where the healing is
yeah,
for you. It's
yeah,
your way to go. Yeah, that's a really
yeah.
important point. I think you made me think of that. Yeah, resonates because when you're on the spiritual path of people who are like truthers, they're like looking for truth, and
Mm,
it's like it's a truth. It's like the truth looking for itself. Like
mm,
Rumi said. I think it was Rumi that said something like you're like said to one of his disciples or whatever, you're like you're God looking through it. You're like God looking for itself through God's eyes, or
Mm,
something like that. I've butchered that. It's much more
yeah.
poetic how he said it. Um, but essentially that's it. And I was on that path of truth,
Mm,
Well, what's true? So I listened to one person be like, oh, that resonates. And they say something, I'm like, what?
mm,
That doesn't resonate. That's wrong. That doesn't resonate.
yeah.
And you kind of, I don't know if you've had this, but you kind of listen to people and put all your kind of eggs in one basket and like, oh yes, they have the truth. They're
Mm,
saying that resonates. Sooner or later, they're going to say something, you know, like I don't know. The Earth for me, for me, because I believe the Earth is not what we're taught it is, like the globe spinning around the sun or whatever. I don't believe that. So as soon as they say something like talk about the Earth and the cosmology we're taught in the mainstream, I'm like, my ego goes, oh, like, it's nothing. Do you know what I mean?
mm,
But you shouldn't throw the baby out with the bathwater. Just take what resonates. And go,
mm,
okay, that's true for me because they're on their own path as well. Because for them,
yeah.
maybe then they've not looked at certain things that you may have looked at, and they're not meant to. That's the
Mm,
point, isn't it? We're all playing
yeah.
different roles. Like,
Yeah. I mean, for me, that so the last say probably like maybe 5 to 10 years is, or maybe yeah, maybe about 5 years. There was this uprising of information about kind of aliens and alien life and greys and Anunnaki and um all these other civilizations and how they're all like kind of attacking us or using the human race on some level, on an energetic level, which I was kind of like, yeah, I kind of like get that on some level, like obviously the lizard beings that that are on the earth, and I kind of get that as well. Okay, um, but then there comes like a level of acceptance to that, as to like, well, what can I actually do about it? Like, and just, I think it was like yesterday or the day before, I was having this conversation with somebody, and like, just what popped in was like, did the Buddha or did Jesus ever worry about lizard people or the greys or anything of that nature to find their inner peace? I very much doubt it. I think that all they wanted was to resonate on that high frequency of love and peace. And that is their teaching. That is what they brought to the earth. Um, so, yes. So for me now, although, yes, I understand it and I get it, for me now, it's just kind of like, that's my level of truth there has shifted. And I've just kind of like, that just runs alongside. And if I need to be aware of it, I will be. But currently, I'm more focused on my inner inner peace, that God source energy.
exactly. Because they're God as well. Like it makes no difference. You can focus
It's
on
it's all the same thing.
uh, exactly. So it's by the by. It's we're
Mm,
as much aliens as the
yeah,
Pleiadians and
yeah, yeah, absolutely.
and the reptilians and whatever. We're all the same infinite consciousness, just vibrating at different frequencies.
Mm,
So that's why it comes back to like what kind of vibe you want.
mm,
This is
yeah.
also why, like, in bringing it back to the human kind of frame of reference for any people who are not into the lizards and stuff who are listening. um when you change friendship groups, you just stop resonating with them. You're
Mm,
just like, nah, I just don't have anything in common with them anymore. Like, and you can give it all the labels you want. We've changed. We're on different paths. Bottom
yeah,
line is, you're not resonating on the same frequency. That's it.
yeah,
You know, you're not you're not vibing. Like we say it, don't we, in common
yeah.
language, which is really really
Well,
sweet,
it's
isn't
the
it?
word
They're like, yeah,
wavelength.
you're my vibe.
You're not on the same
Yeah,
wave. We're not on the
wavelength as well.
same
We say it.
wavelength.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
what you say. So they're just like,
yeah,
and
yeah.
usually find like, when you go through all this kind of stuff, that all the people he did resonate with, whoosh, they just disappear. And because you're not on that wavelength. And
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
it's all in everyday language. What happens? So yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Just go with what vibe you're on, you know?
Yeah,
Just go with that. That's where you're supposed to be at. And yeah. Once you get comfortable in that, just walking your own path and being okay and cool with who you are, you'll be
yeah,
cool with all the other like archetypes and characters we've got, like, like David Icke and Alex Jones, and they're doing exactly what they're supposed to do. They're
mm,
an archetype. They're playing out their role,
yeah,
majestically.
mm,
Majestically. Elon Musk, Bill Gates.
yeah,
Do you know
yeah.
Joe Biden? I'm not sure of which one, but there's a few of them
Ooh,
floating
no,
around.
yeah.
But
Did you
even
did you
the
ever?
the archetype of Joe Biden lives. You know, they only live inside your mind anyway. There is no David Icke. There is no Alex Jones. They're your imagination,
Mm,
as are we.
yeah,
I'm speaking. I am in your imagination. You're in my imagination. Like that. That's it.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, there was a picture a while back in I can't remember. I think it was on TV or somewhere I saw it, and there was a picture, and it was a picture of Joe Biden and Queen Elizabeth next to each other. And when you look at them, you're just like, hang on a minute. if
What?
you if you put a picture of them two together, they are extremely similar. If you look at the eyes,
Really?
just look at the eyes. The eyes give it all away. The eyes are the doorway to the soul. Look at their eyes. They are the same eyes.
Yeah. 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 Geez, we can talk about that if you want. That's proper
It
interesting, isn't it? That's
it
another thing,
was
is you get more aware. Uh, you can start
you see
seeing in,
it.
in other
You
people.
see it. Yeah, you see
You
it in
can
other
sit. You
people.
can
Yeah.
sit. You can feel it. Like, and I guess it's because we're both healers, right? So I guess our jobs are to be empathic and really sit in
And
other people's
tuned
energy
in.
fields,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but I spoke to other few people like who have these like, not even abilities. It's just obvious. It's just something you don't. I guess it's like auras, Like some people can see the auras. That the auras are there.
Mm,
It's just I can't perceive them at the moment.
mm,
But with people, I can look into their eyes, and I
mm,
can I can sit in their emotional like field, and I can be like, yeah, that person is very angry. They're angry about something. They might be smiling, but I can see it. You can see in their eyes, can't you? You
yeah.
can see like
It's like it's
that person's got a lot of anger, or that person's really scared. That person. I don't know if you've seen a few of these people now since the have like checked out. Have you noticed the difference in their eyes, or
yeah, yeah. They're just
yeah?
they're not here anymore.
No, no,
Um, no,
no.
not vibrationally or physically. They're just not. I don't know. Yeah, there's just something not right. Um, but yeah, and I think that would be a good thing to talk about is you know being empathic and being kind of like tuned in on that level, because you do become more aware of just like little subtle changes in people's body languages and the way they are and the way that they react, and just the slight change in skin color or posture or in the eyes. They're just so many little telltale signs that that do give them away. Um, and it's to people who are on that level, it's very very obvious. For people who aren't, um, then yeah, it can be quite deceiving.
Yeah, and these are abilities. I guess you can call them abilities very loosely that we all have, And the more work you do in yourself, the more you're able to like see it in others.
Mm.
It's
Yeah,
always
yeah.
the way. And as soon as you like look at a pattern in yourself, heal a pattern,
Mm.
you can see it in other people. You're like, oh my God,
Yeah.
they're not a knobhead. They're just really insecure. Do you
Yeah.
know? And that's
Yeah.
that's that's the wisdom in it. You kind of
Yeah.
go from that judgmental level. Once you stop judging yourself on that
Mm.
level, then you can see it and you can be like, oh, they're just insecure. You
Mm.
go another level deeper, really deep, like loving yourself, and
Mm.
eventually you just see people with these patterns, and there's just empathy, man, because
Mm.
you're like, oh man, they're in pain.
Yeah.
Do you know? It's nothing personal that they've said to me or anyone else in their life. It's just a little child trying to get love, essentially.
Mm.
And that's the shadow. And you
Yeah.
just feel like that's a yeah. But some people are definitely naturally gifted. My
Mm.
girlfriend is very like very sensitive, very empathic. Do you know?
Mm.
Like, and she's done a fair bit of like healing work now. Certainly since we've been together, she's changed a lot and become more herself and authentic. And even her eyes are like there's that twinkle in them, you know, that wasn't
Mm.
there before.
Mm.
Uh, but she can walk into a room and like she's like, no, don't like that person. And I'm like,
Yeah.
babe, you can't like don't judge a person like that, do you know? And
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
I'll a few weeks later I'll be like, hey, how did you like know that they had that like energy about them? She just knows. She's like, no, don't like it. She walks into a room, she's like, yeah, yeah, good vibe with this person. There's a good vibe.
Mm. Yeah.
For
Yeah.
me, it takes a while. Do you think that's that the feminine kind of embodiment of energy, isn't it? That kind
Mm.
of being able to
Yeah. Yeah. It's that very
sense.
feeling,
Yeah.
intuitive thing. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Anyway,
Yeah.
we better end this here because we've been talking for like nearly an hour or pretty much an hour. But I think it's been quite an interesting discussion, really. What we started off as uh, talking about New Year and goals and paths and changes to lizard
Lizard.
beings and and that sort of stuff. So yeah, so it's been wonderful again as always. I hope you've enjoyed our discussions and keep an eye on the channel. Subscribe if you've enjoyed this chat, and keep popping back for more. And we're going to have some guests on before long, all being well, for you to uh, enjoy their information and their wisdom as well. So speak soon. Take care. Bye from me and bye from him. Bye for now.
Bye bye. Take care.